Welcome to the Pipeline and People podcast powered by Versorix, the show where boutique firm leaders trade less admin for more advisory. Each week, we share actionable tactics to keep your client pipeline full and your team performing at its best. I'm your host, Jaden. Let's dive in. Today's guest is Vanessa Conde, founder and managing partner at Insight Community Solutions. Vanessa blends 20 plus years in marketing and brand strategy with a passion for community impact, guiding small and mid-sized associations to elevate their operations and leadership. Vanessa, welcome. Could you kick us off with a quick look at your background and what led to you launching Insight?
Yes, thank you for having me. Insight Community Solutions was born out of what a partner and I decided was going to be a true need after all the legislation started coming through in the South Florida market related to the condo industry. After the Champlain Towers fell, everything kind of turned on its head and people were scrambling to put some metrics and guardrails in place so that we didn't have, God forbid, another situation like that, but so that properties, particularly on the water, were doing their maintenance and the things that they needed to do as a preventative method for that from that ever happening again. And so I became the president of the board of my community in 2021, which is in Edgewater, Miami. And through that experience, very quickly, I started, even before all of everything started turning on its head, identifying, a lot of shortcomings and things that were sort of eyebrow raising for me, like, the board of directors, they actually need a little bit more education than they're provided, because you have people that are stepping into a role that are like, board president is almost like the CEO of a Fortune 500 company managing major P&Ls, and they truly need to know what they're doing. And that was just one of the issues that I saw. So we created a consultancy to be able to be the middle of the road partner. So if, for example, they can't afford the big box, property management companies because they are in a financial bind or because the property wasn't managed properly, and they really are not ready to go into self-management, even if that's what they intend to do in order to cut corners and save on their budget. So we come in as a solution to help guide board of directors into better performance, understanding how to work together and govern a community, and make sure that their operations are optimal, and also that they're complying with the new legislation, because that's sort of what turned everyone in their head. If you're not a true expert and don't know what you need to do in order to be legally compliant with what is happening now in the market, then you could get pretty screwed to say it's so pedestrian, but it's true. And that's why we started.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. So today, we're going to talk about how boutique consultants can position themselves to stand out without burning out. What digital tactics actually work right now, how you approach brand strategy, and a few low-cost, high-impact moves that any founder could make this quarter.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Oh, I guess my group has the fortune of my being the marketer in the group, right? I have 30 years experience, almost 30 years experience, and obviously have adapted the digital nuances into my experience for other brands that I've worked on in franchising. I've rebranded a number of companies, done, fully integrated marketing programs, including traditional and digital, to support local level efforts for various, stakeholders, particularly in franchising. And so bringing that sensibility to the table for this business was critical, because it's like, what happens when you start a business? Franchising taught me the ins and outs, the good and the bad of entrepreneurship. And typically people get into franchising because it's a proven model that's cookie cutter, that can be implemented, plug and play. But when you get into it on your own, and in our case, our model is very unique. There's no other businesses like us. You have to be creative about how you navigate through the storytelling and make sure that you're getting it done in a way that sets you apart. I have personally found, not just for this business, but for other things that I do in marketing, and maybe I shouldn't admit this, but it's true. I mean, everybody's doing it. AI has become a lifesaver in a lot of ways, because running your own business means you're wearing every hat, or you should, in your business, as you learn to operate it, grow it, and make it efficient and applicable to the needs of your potential clients. And so you are the marketer, you are the bookkeeper, the finance person, the operations person, the training person, and then you got to offer services to your customers. So burnout is real. And if you don't have certain skill sets, you find yourself spending a lot of time learning things that you didn't come to the table with. So, we have a nice mix in my group of people that have a lot of hospitality and condo industry experience. I'm the marketer in the group, so it works nicely because we ping pong off of each other and lean on each other for what we don't know. But things like AI have definitely made my life easier. Something as simple as coming up with a creative drip campaign that with the appropriate prompts that I give it, because I know what I want and I happen to know the industry as well, so I can kind of dial down on what the message that needs to be delivered that's relevant for those customers. AI does it for me in seconds, right? I mean, people think that AI sort of replaces the human, and maybe in the future that might be the case. But right now, it very much depends on the human to give the right kind of directive, right? And direction and foresee the outcome, the relevant outcome, in order for that AI to create exactly what you want and need. So it's a collaboration. And I'm finding that it is making my life easier. I can get through my projects faster because of it. And it allows me to spend time on other things that I personally need to learn as I'm the newbie in the industry in the group. All right.
Yeah, no, for sure. A lot of people that I talk to day to day or things I see in the news, social media, everyone's worried about being replaced by AI. But currently, you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by someone that knows how to use AI better than you do.
That's right.
It's a lot of getting good output from things like ChatGPT is asking it the right questions in a way that it can respond uh, efficiently and effectively.
That's exactly right. And then when it does respond, having the acumen to be able to sift through the response and make it even more relevant. I mean, because there's
Yeah,
something up in there that's like, that's not exactly what I wanted to say, or maybe there's some extra things in there that didn't need to be spun in that way. And so you have to have good writing skills. You have to know what you want to ultimately achieve and then continue to nurture it into the final output, which makes sense for what you want to do. So there is work.
is that the only way that you leverage AI, like kind of ChatGPT, doing stuff like that, or are there other platforms that you
Yes.
use?
For right now, because we are a startup and our budgets are limited, I don't have any tools in place that give me some sort of customer journey learning, AI that will activate or kick back things, based on what our clients are doing. Our model is a little bit different as consultants, right? So it's not like in some of the franchise businesses that I work in where you're providing a service, dry cleaning, beauty, waxing salons, or home remodeling services where you can kind of tap in a little bit more to a specific customer journey that has a repetition or trending, right? And then you kind of integrate the AI tool that makes sense so that you can learn those customer purchase patterns and then build programming around that so you're more efficient at lead generation or lead retention, which I feel is even more important. And so in this business, it's a little bit different because it really is based on relationships. You're dealing with human beings that are doing a job serving human beings. And the goal is really to train those people to be better at what they do and have better insights and education about the industry so that what they're doing is legally compliant, separate from transparent and offering operational, excellence. So it is a little bit more kicking back to old school, marketing in a way, and traditional marketing, word of mouth, partnering with industry partners that also service that client and understand that they're going through pain points. And so they may refer you. So the lawyers on the team, are usually our big reference, mechanism because they've been retained to provide condo law services and they know exactly what's happening on the ground level and where they may need our kind of services. So it is a little bit more old school in our approach. I do email campaigns. I do, a lot of LinkedIn content because in our industry, a lot of people go into LinkedIn. Could we put a budget towards LinkedIn ads? Probably. We're not there yet. So we're taking a more organic approach to what we do. And then the old school, attend all the condo events, go to the breakfast, events, the luncheons, the networkers, and try to have lunch with, people that make the decision makers in the market who can put me in front of more board of directors that they think need my help. So it definitely is a more pedestrian, traditional marketing approach, more of a, knocking on doors, making those connections and hoping for good word of mouth referrals. Because we're not yet at the point where we would be able to, one, afford, or two, really benefit from a deep dive digital marketing program that's integrated. I mean, yes, The SEO on the website is something that's in our plans for organic and paid, keyword searches, but maybe pay-per-click at one point so we can funnel more traffic to the website to get conversion on our lead forms. All of that are the standard 101, digital marketing practices that we are very well aware of, Google ads and all of that, of course. But like I said, we're kind of taking a more traditional approach and using word of mouth as leverage because these people want to know who you are. They get very territorial when it comes to who comes in to deal with their stakeholders who have a large vested interest.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
definitely. So you've mentioned a couple times about how unique your business model is and how there's no one else like you. What makes it so unique?
Because we have a very customized approach. So if you look at some of the big box property management companies, which is what we don't want to be, because we're not a team that can handle, a property of, 1,000 units, a campus with 1,000 units. We're kind of middle of the road to smaller in terms of condo size. And we don't do the typical adding all these burden rates and commission on top of vendor partnerships and things like that. We actually come in, do an audit of the situation, and put together a scope of work together with the board of directors that makes sense to address their pain points at that moment for a period of time. So although we are licensed as a property management company and could operate that way if we're asked to do so, it's not really how we lead. We lead first as a consultancy that customizes a rescue program, so to say, for the particular needs of that property at that moment. And then beyond that scope of work, for whatever duration of time it's been determined it will take to fulfill, we can do an a la carte type of scenario where we either check in every month or once a quarter, or they can continue to come to us for other pain points that come up and other things that they're faced with that they may not know how to deal with, and we can deal with it on an a la carte basis. So as opposed to having this long-standing relationship where there's a management fee, and then you put on all of these commissions and these burden rates on all these different people that, that we provide as staff, we actually help them kind of do it on their own and monitor the process and teach them so that they are performing optimally.
It's quite the unique approach, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So diving kind of into some of the industry trends, I want to know, with your branding and marketing background, what shifts have you been seeing in how trust is built, especially online in 2025?
I feel like video content is really the way to go. And of course, I say that depending on the brand that you're working on, but like even in dry cleaning, and maybe especially in dry cleaning, I don't know. When you're talking about people's personal items, it's important to them, right? So they want to make sure that their clothing is being taken care of by experts that know how to dry clean those particular, especially unique pieces of clothing that you're never going to throw in a washing machine, God forbid, because you'd ruin it, especially if it's very expensive. And so you want to put your clothes into trusted hands. You don't want to be the person, God forbid, that ends up picking up their clothes and they burn through the satin, when they were pressing it, or, they use the wrong chemicals on the material, and then it's damaged forever, just throw it in the garbage. So I find that the ways to get over, those sort of concerns and to really impress upon people that you are the expert at what you do, I think video content does that. And you can so easily do that on social media. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't have to be highly produced. I tend to find that the more organic content that maybe the manager in the store might do with a iPhone that gives you pretty professional quality anyway, kind of identifying a day in a dry cleaner, or highlighting something specific that we do, or that brand does, that makes them different or unique. In this particular brand, everything was hand ironed. They didn't use those big boiler presses for exactly that reason, as I mentioned before, because those boiler presses, they fray the clothing, they burn them over time, and then your clothing just doesn't look great after a while. When you do a hand ironed approach, it's definitely caring for the item as well as caring for you, right? And so, highlighting something like that, the ironers during their day, they're set up in such a way in the store that they are the focal point. They're like the heroes, right? In that customer journey. If you were to go into a store, that's what you see first. And so putting that into video content and making it engaging and fun, I think is a good way of using social media channels to be able to convince the community that you are the expert and they can trust you. So that's just one example.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great way to put it for B2C especially. But for someone like yourself, or maybe someone watching this episode, how do you position yourself strategically, but also like practically, operationally for B2B marketing and sending it online like that?
Yeah, so I think it's the same thing. I find that I've gotten a lot of traction just in the very smartly written content on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is become the source of sort of B2B networking, right? In
Mhm.
an online, and maybe there are others, but that's the one that I use primarily. Separate from going to a network or meeting people, in person. And I'm finding that a lot of professionals are looking for each other in that space, and they're going to your business pages to look at the kind of content that you're curating because that sets you apart, right?
Yeah.
If you're putting that's timely, relevant, engaging points of which you're offering services for. Sorry, my dog's about to bark. That kind of sets you apart. Video engagement is important too. And actually, one of the things I didn't mention is I created a season of a podcast series that we're going to begin recording in the coming weeks. And so, I was able to be swift and nifty about kind of getting around a lot of high price production costs. And because of my background in marketing and producing commercials, I'm able to bring some of those skill set to the table to produce what I call kind of a down and dirty, but a nicely produced podcast series that gives us the video content that I can fuel through LinkedIn to continue to convince people that we're the experts at what we do, and just being creative with that content and making sure that I'm interviewing people that are also experts at what they do within the vein of that industry so that people see some sort of a collaboration amongst experts talking about the things that matter most, right? For that audience that we're trying to get after, and the B2B, the business partners that we're trying to bring to the table, because in some of the offerings that we have, we bring vendor partners, if they need to have a concrete restoration done or an engineer on site to look at, issues within the structure, we can bring partners to the table that can provide a three bid process. And then we help them through that process and help them negotiate. So that, I would say, it's the same kind of thing, just a different audience and a more dedicated platform. And a podcast series would be a good way to get across, right? As well as doing organic content where I get up as a talking head, I guess, so to say, and deliver in a video, insights on industry issues, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the same approach that I'm taking here with this podcast. So, okay, so kind of turning the lens inward now to insight. What's next for you? 6 to 12 months. Where do you want to be? Are there new services, communities, causes that you're excited to support?
Yeah, I mean, so we are feverishly working on building our client base. We actually, when we started last August, came out of the gate with the property with a client, and that was a referral through a law firm. And then shortly after that, got another one, and now we're actually in the process of a scope of work development for yet another property with a new one that just came on for consideration as well. So, we kind of came out of the gate fast, and then it slowed up a little bit, and then we've been spending a lot of time kind of nurturing relationships. And some of these things, this lead generation and then lead nurturing takes a long time to burn, particularly when you're doing it in a more organic approach. So you have to be patient. So my goal is by, the next 6 to 12 months, we hopefully bring on at least another 3 to 5 buildings. We are also talking to some industry partners about a form of collaboration in terms of similar entities partnering so that we can share clients to a degree, and kind of build our businesses together as opposed to independently. That sometimes happens in the industry. And so we're already having conversations like that. So our hope is that that comes to fruition as well. And then in terms of causes, I mean, personally, I'm an animal advocate. I actually am just finalizing the final steps of an appointment by the local district county commissioner, District 2, that's appointed me to a seat on the board of directors for Animal Services Adoption Center in Doral. So that's a really big deal for me. It's a personal passion. And, this job, this company and my role as a board of director of a community has really opened the doors for me into more public works, working with local legislators and the city of Miami and the county to do things that not only support my community in Edgewater where I live and making sure that my stakeholders get what they need out of, city services and updates to our infrastructure. But I'm also more interested as well in having a hand in developing other things as well for the benefit of the city, the constituents, and in my particular case for animals.
For sure. If this episode sparked any insight, tag Vanessa with your takeaway. And until next time, I'm Jaden. This is Pipeline and People podcast.